Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen and today we're going to play around with abstract watercolor expressive tutorial. This is super easy for any beginner. I'm just painting these really fun field of abstract tulips. You know, I'm just washing paint around, I'm scraping paint, I'm actually using some watercolor pencils, metallic paint, splattering that around. You can see all the fun little bits and splotches that I create from just doing all the splattering and how it works with the watercolor, how it moves. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Also, don't forget to hit the bell notification to know when my tutorial's up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon where I have ad-free videos, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays, and a live stream in the top tier. It's just a place people go and support my channel, which I appreciate so much. You can check it out right up here and a second on the right hand side up top. Boop, right there. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. So hey guys, let's just talk about some supplies I have. I'm playing around with all kinds of stuff and it's intuitive painting, so I'm not gonna know exactly what brushes I'll use. I'll start off with some and then I'll talk about what I use in the video and then I'll put them in the description box at the end. Same thing with the paints. I will have some acrylic ink here and some other stuff. So the main thing is that I wanted to show you guys how to play with a sea sponge doing some kind of abstract. I did some fun trees earlier, played around with that. This is a great tool to use for that. I have a larger piece of artist paper here. I have a 11 by 16. 11 and something by 16 paper. So I thought I'd do a large one this time. I'm not going to tape it down. I'm just going to play around with it. I'm using this big old, I don't know what's it, because it's a 30 Royal Langnickel Jumbo. I think I got this at Michael's or one of these stores. Just a big old brush. And I'll be using some of the other brushes here that I have. Some of my Neptune brushes and my Princeton Velvet Touch series long round. It's good to have the spray bottle close by. These are really inexpensive. You can get in Michael's. I might use a credit card, but the acrylic inks I'll be splattering in some of those. So this is just like an intuitive landscape, abstract, kind of expressionist, all that nonsense. And there's no right or wrong to this. That's why this is the best thing to do, to try. Some people don't like abstract. Some people don't like intuitive painting, but that's fine. I like to play. And I play all the time, and it's the best way to learn anything. So we can start by just taking some water. You see my water jars. I try to have the thing higher this time because it's a big piece of paper. And I'm just going to grab, maybe I'll mix up some greens, some yellows. So I have peacock blue here. And I'll clean up my brush, and I'll grab some of the yellow. This is cadmium yellow deep. It always makes a beautiful green. I like to mix with burnt umber with that. Then I get olivey brown green here. You can make these colors anything you want. It doesn't have to be what I'm using here. Just loosening up some. This is a color called neutral tint. It's like a purplish gray. And then I like my ultramarine blue. And voila. So I'm cleaning up this big old brush. You hear me clanking it, sorry. So we're gonna do some fun things. So it's good to have like 3 or 4 water jars. I have 3 here. So you got a dirty one, right? You got a medium dirty, and then you're super clean. It just helps. So I'm gonna start by just taking some water itself. It's really wet, see? It's pretty wet. I'm just going across kind of an angle in the middle and the center. Just gonna play around. I'll do that like here. I'll leave some spaces. Just gonna play around, and then I'll just start to grab some paint. I can bleed that down just like this. See? Holding it on an angle. It's like a chartreuse green. Grab some of that brown. Maybe some of this ultramarine blue. Go back and grab some of that peacock. Playing around. Now the paint is only gonna go where the water is. So it's a little tip for you guys. So I'm just taking this brush and pushing it back over this way. Grab some more of this ultramarine blue. Just kind of putting it in there like that. you can start to play around with. I'm flipping it all over here, upside down around the spray bottle. And now it's going to make the paper wet and it's going to bleed more down. See, like that? Now I don't mind it going onto this paper underneath here on my desk. I have a paper towel close by. See, look at a little line going here. That's kind of cool. We're going to let the paper do all the work. I'm going to grab some more of this peacock blue. And clean up my brush. Grab some yellow. I'm getting a little messy with my yellow, but that's okay. Just really kind of just playing around. Now that's really thick, concentrated color right there, but I kind of like that. Again, cleaning up my brush, and I'll show you what to use with the sea sponge in a second. I'm going to grab some Prussian blue up here. Gonna put that off, and I'll add some neutral tint. I'm just grabbing different colors and just playing with it. So you can picture like maybe this is some kind of field. You know, add little browns, some neutral tint. Doesn't have to be as dark as mine. Again, you can just kind of have them bleed down. Playing around with neutral tint again. Now, I'm going to spray this way with the yellow on the paper and then hold it on an angle. Look at that fun stuff. It's just dripping down. Look at that, creates this really cool kind of like, now the see how it's just pooling here at the end? You can just grab your paper towel. I'm going to clean up some of this mess down here, and I'll just clean it on the edge there. Right? You can take the sea sponge that I have, and you can just, I'm going to mix up some green. I'll just grab another big brush I have here, just an old, I'll get yellow and peacock blue, some nice pretty green. It has all these little nooks and crannies. It just makes for like natural looking trees. So you can just kind of tap in the color. I might need some more because this sponge is soaking up. This is intuitive, and I'm doing real-time videos, so playing around with how this looks. It's not quite coming out the way I had it in my other my actual experiment. Don't you love that? So I'm adding all different colors, just going back. See, I'm just going in and tapping in. And then it creates a nice texture. You can just kind of play around with that itself. Grabbing some browns, some of the greens. Again, we're just playing. Grab that blue. So it could be like a trees. Same thing here. I'm going to make some more of this green. Obviously, it was soaking up so much. That was the issue. I'm just taking kind of squeezing it. So I had a big sponge, and I got these from Michael's, by the way. I just cut it in half. They're really inexpensive. They come with these other sponges too, like this. You can use those too. They can create some nice textures. I'll just do some couple little blops out here for trees. Right? Add some more yellow. This is my funky. Now, it doesn't even have to be landscape. It can just be like anything. Like I said, you just go in here and grab some color, play around with it. I want to keep playing around with it. Going back with this brush. Gonna add some more of this yellow and green. Getting just this movement. I add a little of this neutral tint. And some Prussian blue. Again, you can have that all bleed. Can add some more water to that. See, taking the brush, grabbing water. This is all the things we want to experiment with. What? it's just fun. This little line got a little funky. I like the way it went and did that. So now I want to play around with this. I'm making a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. I like messes. So see if that line goes back down. Yeah, see, I wanted that line to go back out again. And I got the corner over here, which I don't want. Now, if I didn't like my trees, I could just spray them. Let's see what happens with those. Again, it's just bleeding. They look like little veins for like vines. And it's bleeding down. And I'll just pick it up with my paper towel. I'm licking all this kind of organic matter. You can actually use your paper towel for a texture too, kind of blotting it in certain areas. So we're getting somewhere, right? I'm not going to go back over here. I want some more blues. Blues, neutral tint. Really deep, almost like navy tones on this side. Gonna have those bleed down a little bit. You can splatter a little bit. Don't be afraid. And see what that does. And if you're just sitting there, you see how it's just sitting there, the color, you can kind of move it like going like this, holding it up at an angle. You can spray it again. Now this paper is going to get really wet and it's going to buckle a little bit, but you know how you get rid of that? Let it dry and you can just flip it upside down and put an iron on it and that should make it flat. So I'm going to go back over in here with this clean brush and just lift up some of the stuff that I didn't like. I'll take a little paper towel. I'll kind of just go in here and lift up some of the things I didn't like. Now we can start to play around with these acrylic inks. This is a brown. Ooh. Maybe I didn't want it so big. I might grab another little brush. It's an old brush. See, that really would really too much. I want a little bit. Make teeny ones. And out here. I have gold and I have white. The brown is kind of pretty. The gold will be kind of really cool. It's a little thick than the other one, so it's not going to bleed as much, I think. Play around with metallics. It's so much fun. Right, oh, look on the navy, it looks so good. And then, of course, the white. Now, I wouldn't kind of do it everywhere. Maybe just kind of concentrate it in certain spots. See, I'm doing more here, and it's going to bleed and create some kind of really cool texture. Try doing this with salt too. I didn't have any salt with me, so I didn't do that. And again, you can have the sponge lift up as well. Creates kind of a nice texture. I didn't really use it as much as I thought I was going to use it in this one. Just showing you. I might go in and play around with some texture. You can use it to lift up paint too. Grab some water. Kind of push it around, see? Kind of softening the edge now with the sponge. Changing this. You can use a different kind of sponge, like a regular sponge if you don't have a sea sponge. You see how I just softened that hard edge? It's making a circular motion. Kind of bleeding that down. I can go ahead and add some more paint. Circular motion, and then kind of just swooshing it down. Isn't that fun? Adding some darker colors, some brown, some umber. Kind of twisting it. Gives a little pattern. Adding some of the peacock blue. Just keep playing. See, I think this is kind of fun. And here I might add some deeper color. Let's see how this goes. Maybe I'd take a smaller brush. Maybe I'd take my Princeton 8 long round. Grab some of this burnt umber. Very concentrated with a neutral tint. Just going to put some lines going across. Right? So it indicates kind of some of the land or mountains or something like that. Again, it's so wet. You can have that bleed a little bit too. And you can always go back in and kind of fix that too. Getting a little darker green here. Let that bleed. Gonna grab some more of that neutral tint. Just gonna bleed some of that color. The paper is very wet. Getting this much wetter. Here we go. So now it bleeds down. Bleed. You know, if you want to have a surprise color, you know, I love this new color that I got. You've seen a lot of my new abstracts. This is cadmium red light. I don't know why, but it's just, you know, of course, red and green are opposite colors, so they're gonna really pop. So I'm gonna loosen this color. I'm just gonna place, I'm holding the paintbrush on its side. And some of the spots that are next to the white areas that are not painted. Let's see. Bleed some of that down. Doesn't bleed, you can use this trusty spray bottle. Let's see. There it goes. I'll create like the red line. Kind of cool. Maybe I wouldn't want so much red line in there. I would twist some of it out. So now it's more of a brown. Right? Oops. So you got the two dirty waters. Going back and adding some more greens and some browns. You gotta play. I do want to add some more bright yellows too. Again, splatter some of this color. And this ultramarine blue. It's a very pretty blue. Let's see what happens. This is playing with the bleed here. Moving it around. Bleeding it down. It's kind of fun. Up here it's got like some splatters, so we might have to clean that up a bit. I'll just grab a clean thing of water and a brush. I'll just go up here and kind of get rid of those spots that I don't want. Grab a paper towel. Kind of try and wipe those. I want to keep all the energy kind of in the middle and down. You know, what I'm playing with here. The gold, the blue splatter. When this dries, we can go back in and we can draw some really cool, like actual sharp painting lines. Right now we're just playing with the bleed. I do want some more bright yellow. try and do some zigzag like grass. Again, energy. See, I'm just holding the brush kind of way up top, way up high. Just going like this back and forth. Get that energy. It's still very damp, by the way. And grab some of that neutral tint and do the same thing. Just in the tip of this. This is my Princeton 8 long round that's really pointy. And I'm giving it those really sharp points. A lot of energy. Just kind of wiggling around. I'm going to go back in and grab some more of this red. So maybe we'd call this Springfield or something. Just dot in some little dots like they're flowers. Kind of cascading downward. You can call it whatever you want because it's an abstract. Now I've lost some of the fun splattering in some sections. I might go back in and grab some white. I like the white in here just a little bit. This is the acrylic ink. Kind of feels like the bokeh kind of thing sometimes when you use that kind of color. And the gold is so pretty. So let's go back and use some gold. I think metallic is fun. If you don't want it up here also, you can just cover the paper. It's just very damp and wet here, but it's dark. Metallic will look really pretty in here. And this part's kind of dry, so you can really see the metallic. Right? So this is fairly wet. Just a little bit, right? It's soaking in. It's drying, so it's buckling a little bit. Like I said, you can play around with, when it's completely dry, you can just use an iron to the back of it. No, I'm just going to lift up some of this paint over here. Like I showed you, just take a paper towel. Kind of remove some of it. You can kind of just tap it here to dry up that super soaked liquid. And the red has a hard edge there, which I kind of actually like. I'll put some more water in here to move this around a little bit. Okay, go down this way. Down and on the side. Always play around with going things like this, like lifting the paper, moving it around. It's just going to create these really cool, unique effects. I'm really loving the expression of this, and I feel like if I keep doing something right now, I'm going to just make it such a mess. I am going to add a little water to some of these white spots, because I wanted them to bleed a little more than they did. I don't want it to look like snow. So I'm bleeding it and moving it around. I can play around with just tapping with the paper towel, lifting up some of the paint. Okay. At this point, you really need to let it dry before you do anything else, because it just become like a complete mess. But I'm loving the energy of it. I'm loving how it's coming out. Abstracts are fun. And so I'm going to play around with this section. When it's dry, I'm going to add some like real expressive, stems with some flowers, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to let this dry naturally and come back. With the magic of television, when I come back, it will be dry. Okay, guys, so now that it's dry, I just mixed up some greens. I've got medium, light, and dark. And I can use these burnt umber and neutral tint. I'm just taking my brush. Oh, there's a little spot that got wet from my water. And I'm just going to make you know, grass. Kind of leaning this way, just like I did with this one. So they're blowing in the wind. Maybe add a little burnt umber to that. And lighted grass. Now I wouldn't do it everywhere. Just a few spots where you see some of the red. So you grab some neutral tint and bring it down. So you have like little clusters, you know, of flowers in the field. And they could be tulips, they could be poppies. Grab some more of this neutral tint color. Just like this. You don't have to put them in. I'm just suggesting it, you know, this is what I'm doing. Intuitively, if you don't like it, don't do it. Grab me more of a bright yellow. Some grasses in here, like a chartreuse kind of green. You know, you might want to just keep it the way it was. Just really kind of, really super abstract. I like the combination of like semi and real abstract. It's just, you know, something you can do to play around with. Another thing is, if you're not liking it, again, take a clean brush. You can kind of like tap around next to it. If you want to just soften the edges, grab paper towel, just kind of like suggest it. So if maybe if it felt like it was too much, like it's too harsh, you kind of suggest it. You're tapping it and removing some of the paint, so it has a softened look to it. That you see the stems, but they're not as predominant. You know, just another thing you can do. Might go back in and add some of that pretty red. In some of the areas that are missing it. I feel like you could just play all day with this, you know. Some people say they don't know when to stop. If you don't know when to stop, just stop and then step back and then come back. That's a great idea. Because then you get a little too crazy, right? Like maybe right now I'm going a little too nuts with the red, and maybe I shouldn't just keep that red out of there. Sometimes you just can't help yourself. Again, you could dry it again. You can play around with using some ink, some pen and ink. I mean, there's no limit to this. You can use some gouache. You can use an ink pen to kind of draw some lines in here. Pencil, charcoal. You can use the nib, which would be kind of fun with the actual ink. Now you don't want to put it where it's going to be wet. Just draw some little patterns out this way. See, taking that. What I love about this, so I'm taking some, just drawing some lines thin and thick, kind of parallel next to each other, going out. Kind of like vines kind of creeping and crawling across the page. I'll show you up close in a second. It's just going to add just another element to your design. So I'm trying to get some more of this ink here. It's just going to change it a little more. So you see those little lines? That's what I was playing around with. And you can do that with a pen. You don't necessarily have to use a nib like I was using. Oop. See what happens? You gotta be careful with the ink. It does happen often. But that's okay. Sometimes mistakes happen. I feel like if you just have one line there, you're gonna have more lines. So I'm playing around with adding in the ink. Just changing things up a little more. Very relaxing, actually. That could be your landline. So these are just things you can do, guys. See, if I made a mistake there, it's very hard to get out that kind of ink on the paper. You kind of have to do it right away. I'm going to kind of wiggle it with water. And if I can't, what I can always just do is just put some color there. Why not? Who says you can't color it? So it looks like it belongs. No one would ever know the wiser. So I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, play around with it. You can go back into these little lines and add some, you know, I might take some white gouache or a white gel pen. Let me see if I can get this white gouache out of here. There we go. Woo. See what happens in live tutorials. In these little lines in between, I can put some white. Again, I'm just playing, making it just a little bit different. It's an abstract. Doesn't have to look. Now the ink, until it's dry, is going to bleed, so you got to be careful with that. So maybe use a pen. And that's our little fun thing for today. I might go back in and actually use some gold, because I really like the gold. The gold is a lot of fun. You know, instead of the white gouache, put in some gold going out this way, next to those fun lines. You can be really conscious of where you stick the gold. You don't have to just splatter it. Again, this is an abstract, so do whatever you like. Put some gold in between those lines going across. Just changing it up. Yeah, I like the gold a lot. I'll keep playing with this for a while. Just wanted to give you guys some more ideas of fun things to do. And basically, I'm going to tell you just to play with your paints. Now, obviously, this is an expensive piece of paper. It's large. If you're not used to doing abstracts and don't feel like, just play with some cheaper paper first before you head into the real expensive paper. So I hope you guys enjoyed this intuitive, abstract, landscapey kind of tutorial. You know, to me, it looks like a crazy little field of poppies or tulips. And that's the whole point. It's supposed to be just expressive and fun. Playing around with moving the paint, you know, splattering the paint and painting. So thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel. Please don't forget to hit the bell notification button to know when my tutorial's up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. You can also, once you do the ink, you can also play around with some of these. I have these Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils, and I'll just make some, sketching down some, you know, stems of the flowers with the pencils. You can hear me sketching it. Just kind of rough. You can draw in some. And play around with the pencils too. Maybe browns or blues. There is no right or wrong to playing when you're doing abstract. I kind of like to play around with a lot of stuff. This is more of a, like, you know, mixed media when you got the ink We've got the pencils. Playing around with all of that. Like I said, the more the merrier, right? And then with the pencils, you can kind of shade in some areas. Just a little different. Just drawing some of the little poppies with the pencils. Maybe you could take like a green here, do some shapes, like a triangle, kind of just shade in the shape. I really want you guys just to go some blues, adding some bright, what is this color? This is it doesn't say a number or color, it just has a number on it. So it's kind of like a turquoisey blue. Just adding in some of that. Just playing around. Don't get stuck on just doing one thing. A nice white pencil would be great. You really can kind of play around with that. All the good stuff that makes a abstract what it is. All the energy. I like to have a lot of energy in my paintings and drawings. So if that means like doing these crazy lines, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put those in. I'm gonna have those pencil lines. So just more things you can think of, you know, because the paint's gonna be watercolor dry. You can go back in, like I said, play around with the watercolor pencils on top of your watercolor. And then if you wanted to, you know, you could obviously put water on it and see what happens. So I have my brush. Let's see what happens. We'll put a little water on this, some of these little lines. Just putting a little bit of water next to it. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Again, playing around with the painting. And then it's changed again. Again and again and again. I got that watercolor pencil and you can just water it down. I like how this just changed it even more so. I'm going to go back in and use some paint too. It's morphing by the minute. It's just, it can't help itself, you know. This is how it works. You just kind of keep playing. Don't feel like it has to be a certain way. I add some more green up this way. And that ink will bleed a little bit. Like I said, play, play, play. I'm always going to play. Can change this by watering it down. The ink. See, I got rid of those lines and I watered the ink down a little bit. You can still see them, but there's like this bleeding effect. So it's kind of cool. This is how I roll, guys, when I do this stuff. So I'll go back in and add some. Kind of like, I like to do these things at an angle. Have you noticed that? I don't know why. More abstract flowers. Like I said, down here you can kind of make them look like a real flower. I might do like a tulip so it's like a V shape. A bigger one. Not necessarily poppy. And then you would put some nice greens, some stems. Tulip. Tiptoe through the tulips. See how that changes? A little black. Bright green. Voila. It's a constant play. Some more yellow. Just some concentrated yellow thrown in here. And there we go. And I might go back in and fix some more of these little tulips. Do like a little V. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Like line down, line to, and you've got your tulips. These kind of bled, so I'm going to have to go back and fix some tulips. So it could be a tulip field instead of a poppy field. I already did one that was a poppy field. So we'll make it tulips. Tiptoe through the tulips. Now they would be small on the back here. Tiny. And I'm going to have some clustered right over in here. Just like that. Bunch of red clustered. Maybe make a nice big one up front. A couple of big ones. And the medium ones back here. See, I just can't stop myself. Some of us have a hard time stopping. But sometimes when you get in that groove, that's what you got to do. You got to keep going. So I'll do another cluster over here. Cluster to this, cluster over here. See your eyes following in both sections. Going off the page. And some back here. So it's a tulip field. I'm going to go back over here. I'm using almost concentrated red at this point. I'm really enjoying this color. Okay. I'll add some yellows. I'll play around with it. Let's chartreuse yellow green color. Just do. Don't be afraid to play. Don't be afraid to play. That's my motto for you guys for today. Okay. So that's that. Now that you heard me talk and yap too long, just play around with everything. Colored pencils, not colored pencils, credit card, ink. Throw the kitchen sink in here and have fun. And let's see what you come up with. So thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel. I hope you have fun and play. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't hit the bell notification, please hit that so you know when my tutorial's up. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.